Hi, friends. Glad to see many of you, dear friends, with us. Ranan, can you unmute yourself?
Yes. Hi, everyone. Very happy to be here with you today.
So it's a pleasure to be with you. Another meeting during this evening, at least our time in Jerusalem. It might be morning your time if you are on the opposite part of the world. The weather is beautiful. It feels so much like spring today. It's like the first days of spring here in Palestine and in Jerusalem. And it's very exciting over here in the Holy Land. We started to see some pilgrims coming in. So you find, it is between the streets every now and then a group of pilgrims, which is really interesting. You cannot think of Jerusalem without pilgrims and tourists in it. So today we have a very special guest with us. A very inspiring young lady from Jerusalem, and her name is Ranan Issa. Ranan used to work at Sabil some years ago, but currently works at the Lutheran Church in Jerusalem. Ranan, why don't you introduce yourself?
Thank you, Omar, for this introduction. Hi, everyone. My name is Ranan Issa, and as Omar said, yes, I used to work at Sabil, and right now I am the Gender Justice Program Manager at the Evangelical Lutheran Church in Jordan and the Holy Land. I'm very happy to be here with you and share a bit about the work that we are doing in Palestine.
For many of you who know Sabil, Sabil has a very close relationship with the Lutheran Church. And we're an ecumenical organization, but for many years we have been working very closely with the Lutheran Church. They are an excellent partner and they're doing very inspiring and innovative work. I think the Lutheran Church will be soon the first church in the Middle East to ordain a female pastor. Is this correct?
Not the first church in the Middle East, because Lebanon already ordained three female pastors from Lebanon. But in Palestine, we will be the first church to ordain our female pastor. It will happen very soon, and we're very excited about this.
It is indeed very exciting, and such revolutionary steps being taken, and courageous steps. So Ranan, if I'm not, you are originally from Birzeit, Birzeit village, correct?
My father is originally from Birzeit and my mother is from Jerusalem, but I grew up all my life in Jerusalem.
So Ranan, you have been, and you studied at the Hebrew University in Jerusalem.
Yes, I studied at the Hebrew University. It's close to my house in Jerusalem, and it was a great experience studying there. It was challenging at times, but it was a great experience overall.
So the Lutheran Church is known to be taking such courageous steps. So what is this project that you have been engaged in the past years?
So as you said, the Lutheran Church has been leading change in the Palestinian society. We are the first change in the Middle East to change our family law, which is based on gender equality. And this is the family law that is based in our ecclesiastical court. We are also the first church here in Palestine who will ordain our female pastor. And we encourage female participation within religious leadership positions. We have 2 female judges in our courts, and we are always aspiring to have more female leaders in the society. So part of my work at the Lutheran Church is to help close the gap between the traditional roles and the current needs of Palestinian women. We discuss the challenges that Palestinian women face and try to increase their role in the church and in the Palestinian society, because change doesn't only happen in the church, it happens from the home and from the society as well.
So Sabil, we're partners with you in this important project, but could you give examples about how some laws in the church are problematic when it comes to women's rights?
Yes, there are lots of examples I can give. I'm not the judge, so I can't tell you exact details, but I can show you some of the discrimination that some women face in the pursuit of justice in the legal courts. Now, first, to explain something which is very important, and most of our international friends might not know this, but in Palestine, it's quite different. The family laws are not you don't go to the city or the government in order to divorce or get alimony or all these related family matters. In fact, in order to go to a court, you need to go to a church court. And this is true for the Christians. All Christians and all churches in the Palestine and in the Middle East, they have their own family laws. And now these laws they are very outdated. They haven't been changed for centuries, and they are very discriminatory against women. Like, for example, you can see in these laws that the marriage age, for example, sometimes you can see 14 for girls and 15 or 16 for boys. So immediately you see a contradiction. There's a number for girls and there's a different number for boys. Or in cases of divorce, for example, there are some law articles that say if a woman leaves the house without approval of her husband, he is able to divorce her. This is a right. But if in the other case, he has to leave the house for 3 years. So already we are seeing this discrimination. It's clear. It's not subtle. It's already, you see one night and 3 years. You see 14 years old and 15, 16 years old. There's lots of other law articles that are very discriminatory against women. And this is part of our work. Like the Lutheran Church, as I said, we reformed our family law. We have a family law that is based on gender justice. We don't have the marriage age. We don't allow the marrying of minors in our church. And we have changed that and stated it in the articles. Now, other churches, they say, well, these laws are there, but we don't use them. We don't allow the marriages of minors. But there are certain circumstances then if a parent or the child that is a minor and go to the court and ask for these special permission to take place, then it is allowed for these minors to get married. And now we are trying to make it even harder to have these rules in effect in the Lutheran in the laws.
So just to clarify, Ranan, because many of our friends who live in Europe and around the world, for them, it's the church does not impose laws that govern their social life. In Palestine and in most of the Middle East, it's people, there is no civil laws. Most of the laws are within the church, and when it comes on an individual basis, like marriage, laws, inheritance, it is based on the church or the mosque, not on civil laws. Is that correct?
Yes. Yes.
And most of the laws inside the churches, maybe a part of the Lutheran Church, have not been modified. But it's important to clarify that nobody really pays attention to the laws inside the church, at least in the last 20 years. So there isn't like this phenomena of minor marriage, correct? Or is it exist?
Exactly, Omar. And this is part of the problem, is that when people have to go to the courts in order to get divorced or claim alimony or inheritance or any of these issues, then they see these outdated laws and they see the discrimination and they can't do anything about it. These are the laws that are in effect in our church laws.
But you work in this project, you're working ecumenically and also across faith traditions. You're working also with the Muslim lawyers and so on. Do you find that there's people who still feel that we need to defend the existing laws that exist?
Yes, we did find that when we were gathering our advocacy material, we collaborated with a female judge and a Muslim judge. So they can go back to see all these family laws and examine them and see if they have gender justice in them, to to analyze and see the gaps in these laws. So while they were doing this, and while we presented this advocacy material to the public, many came and said, no, there isn't this discrimination. Or while they were gathering the data for this research paper, people said, we don't see the discrimination in our courts. We don't have the discrimination. We don't feel like we are applying this. But it is important to gather this evidence. That's why we did the policy mapping of all the religious courts in Palestine, because we needed evidence. When we are addressing these faith leaders who are able to change, we need to provide them with evidence and not just tell them there is discrimination.
I think one of the most well-known laws that discriminate against women in our society is inheritance laws. Could you explain a little bit for our audience?
Yes, so the inheritance matters are also governed according to the principles of Sharia. And this is something that not many people know. Even in our classic ecclesiastical courts, they are based on the principles of Sharia. So the woman is entitled to half the share of a man. And this is after one of the parents is dead. So she is only entitled to half of that amount. And usually women, they feel that they don't want to ask for inheritance because it's shameful to ask for this right to ask for money. It's shameful. They always assume that the husband will take care of the wife. There's no need to leave any money to my daughters. They don't see it as not loving your children equally. The parents see it as my daughter will be married to a stranger, so I don't want to leave land for a stranger. I don't want my house to go. No, I want my son who has my family name and will continue my tradition. I want those houses to remain in my family. And they see it as the wife has left the family, which is not true, because the girls usually are the ones who are always there for the family and always goes and take care of her parents. So this discrimination that women are facing in inheritance is in the family laws that are currently implemented in our courts. And this is something that we need to advocate to change, because women are not going to ask for this change. We need to make them realize about this discrimination in the laws, not when they have a case and they realize, oh, now I can't do anything, I'm already in this case. No, we need to do it from now. We need to start raising awareness about all this discrimination.
So just to make sure that I understood you clearly, Ranan. So the majority of Palestinian women feel that they should not receive inheritance, or the society forces them to act or expects them to behave in a way that they will refuse to take their inheritance.
They refuse to take the inheritance because of society, because this is the expectation of society. This is what society expects them. This is the cultural norms that persist in our Palestinian society, that the woman should not ask for her inheritance, and her share should be given to her male brothers.
And for even if the woman decides to take her share of inheritance, it is not an equal share with the men, correct?
Yes, usually it's not. Some have it half of the share, some have it eighth of a portion. Depends, each church has its own family laws. And this is, again, part of the problem, is that we don't have one law that we can say, oh, come on, let's change this law. We have a combination of laws. We have 13 denominations in Palestine, and I think we have like maybe 7 family courts, and each have their own family laws. And this is only for the Christians. For the Muslims, there are also a combination of laws depending where you live. If you live in Jerusalem, you follow a certain law. If you live in the West Bank or Gaza, there's also different laws. And something that should be noted, that sometimes when these laws that are adopted in Palestine, according to the location that you are, let's say, for example, in Gaza, they adopted the Egyptian family law. And this Egyptian family law has been reformed. in Egypt, but it hasn't been reformed in Palestine. They are still on the outdated family law. So again, this is a problem that we have, that none of these family laws have been outdated, and that there is a huge need for us to advocate for a change in the laws.
And I mean, definitely the first step is raising awareness that these laws exist and they need to be reformed. So have you had different meetings with the community?
We did. In doing the policy mapping, and we also did a study about women's participation within religious courts. And as I mentioned earlier, that these family laws, they usually have judges who are usually faith leaders or priests or pastors. None of them have female pastors in the ecclesiastical court here in Palestine. And the Lutheran court has 2 female judges, which is something very impressive, and we're something that we are very proud of. So we are doing our advocacy through our judges, through our experiences. We are trying to share our experiences of reform, how the process happened, how we reached this decision to change and have gender equality, how we support and are committed to gender equality in all aspects of our congregational life, either it is from ordaining women or having them in leadership position, or just the fact that we are going to the society and talking with them. So this is part of the steps that we are doing. We are hoping to encourage and be a model for other faith organizations who want to change their family law and have gender justice in their laws.
So we received the question, what happens in the case with, I mean, you said that there's 7 different...
I'm not sure exactly how many, so it's better.
But there are 13, I think that's right. There are 13 different churches and denominations here. Yes. And people get married, I mean, it's cross-denominational marriages. Mm-hmm. Which court do they go to?
According to the husband, usually. This is what usually happens, is if the husband is Greek Orthodox, for example, then the wife will get married in the Greek Orthodox Church. This is the norm, this is the tradition that is happen. Some couples sometimes are choosing to marry in different courts and in different churches. This depends on the couple themselves and the reasons why they want to marry in a different church, I mean, but usually it is the church of the husband.
Usually, I mean, it's in Palestine, at least in the last century, for many reasons we can go into them, but it's we could discuss them. Palestinian women have been known to be like strong leaders within their own community. At least in the last 2 centuries, we have plenty of powerful and amazing and inspiring ladies. How do you feel between the, at least in your memory, with 3 different generations, like your generation, your mother's generation, your grandmother's generation? Is there a difference? Are people becoming stronger, weaker?
Actually, we are seeing the change happen in the society when we have counseling workshops for young couples and we talk with them. So as I said, change doesn't happen overnight. And in order to have change, you need to speak with the community to understand their needs and the challenges that they face. So we go and speak with them and discuss the common problems that they usually face in marriage. And we come and preach how equality should be implemented in the household, how the husband should take care of the children as well as the wife, and it's not only the wife's responsibility. We raise issues of positive masculinity, what it means to be a man, that it means to share and not violence, and we discuss gender-based violence. So when we discuss it, we are noticing that there is a change in attitudes in the society, in the young men and women who are the next generation of Palestine. We are seeing these changing, and it is very hopeful for the future.
So you see the changes happening already with the people towards the positive. That's
yes.
Good.
And we don't only target Lutheran couples, we target Christian couples, Muslim couples. We try to work interfaith in all aspects of the Palestinian society.
Because many would see our Palestinian society becoming more conservative, or I mean, at least religion is playing a bigger role, or conservative religion is taking a bigger role So that's not what you're feeling when you're having the meetings?
No, for us, we feel that religion is very important in these people's lives. It is very important that to show them that faith leaders are there for them and there to guide them in crisis time. This is especially true for people who are living under armed conflict, like Palestinian people who are living under the occupation. They need the church to be there. They need the church to be the voice of justice for them. They need them to be there and include them in the decisions and not be another oppressor. So this is what we are trying to advocate in our messages and our work.
One of the major problems that people have in Palestine and in Israel and in the Middle East, when marriages don't work as they are intended to, and there's a need for divorce, most of the churches don't allow divorce. And this makes the life of people extremely miserable. How is it in the Lutheran Church?
In the Lutheran Church, I'm not really sure about the actual laws, but a divorce is allowed in the Lutheran Church, but depending on specific cases. Now, in our Middle Eastern society, divorce is a big deal. No one likes to divorce, and they always the argument is always what God combined, no man can separate, and this is not something that the church wants. The church doesn't want to separate couples, but there are incidents that divorce is better for the couple. They cannot remain in this marriage if there is gender-based violence, or if there are specific incidents that, I'm not really sure what they are in the Lutheran court, but they are based on gender equality.
But I mean, still, if just two people decide, and that's still a problem. If two people who are married, a couple, decide they no longer want to be a couple, they need to justify it seriously to the court, or otherwise the court will not give them.
Exactly. There are specific cases where it would be allowed, and not all cases would be, like, not if they have a disagreement. No, they need to prove why, what are these specific cases, and prove that they are going through them.
And this still remains to be a serious problem. We know it from the society, because it's, I know that we should invest in marriage counseling, we should prepare people for getting married and so on. But when two people decide they no longer want to be together, it makes the life of children difficult, even though that they might not have a church reason, let's say. It's very sad. And I hope that this would be addressed within the meetings that you are holding within at the churches or with the community. I want to ask.
Yeah, for the next year, we will be working more with the community to explain the sacred texts that distinguish women's from participation within religious organization, also that distinguish women's role in society. So we are working on having those scriptures analyzed and explained to the public from a gender lens.
You studied, as we've mentioned in the beginning of the meeting, you studied at the Hebrew University. Is education for females still a problem? I mean, do people still resist? In the past, we know that it was more difficult for women to access, or for females to access education. Is it still the case?
No, on the contrary, women are now usually are studying more and usually getting second degrees. But unfortunately, after they get these degrees, they're not joining the labor force, because women are considered to be the the domestic. They need to take care of the children, they need to take care of the house, and the man is the breadwinner. And this is the common misconception that exists in our Palestinian society. Our gender gender roles are clearly defined. The woman stays at home and the man works. Now we see women are working, but still they are the caretakers. They are the people who are cleaning and raising the children. So even though they are studying, they are not doing much with their degrees. And if they are working, they are usually working part-time with less hours, so they can keep up with the lifestyle that they have and keep up with the demands of their family and their children and husband.
With equal pay, is there equal pay for the women who are working in Palestine, at least within the churches?
It depends on where you are. So some places yes, some places no. Depends on, each organization can do its own laws also. Each in the Lutheran Church, for example, yes, there is equal pay.
When we mentioned about a female pastor being ordained, we meant a local female pastor.
Yes.
Local. But the Lutheran Church have had for some time a female pastor, but an international one, Reverend Carey, that many of you know, and so on. How does your community, the Lutheran Church, view her as the first female pastor of, the church in Jerusalem?
So it's very important to work with the community. Sometimes I have discussions with them when we do the theological reflections on gender justice and we discuss women's ordination. It's very important to have these discussions. We, as I mentioned, we are a Middle Eastern society. It's hard for us to understand or accept female pastors. Even when we see foreign female pastors who come from the States or who come from, I don't know where, who are ordained, and they come and preach in front of us in the church on Sunday, and us young girls sitting there thinking, why them? Why can't they be pastors and not me? Because I'm Palestinian, I can't be a pastor. So this is something that has been in my head growing up. And now that we will have our first female Palestinian pastor, this will encourage other girls to study theology. It will show them that to be a female pastor is possible, because there is one. I can see her when I go to church. I can see her on social media. I can hear her story on YouTube or on the church's website. And this is part of our work. As I said, we need to work with the community. We need to change the symbols and the stereotypes that women cannot succeed, women cannot be in leadership positions. We need to change these images by showing them positive images, showing them our first young female pastor and her fight for gender justice in the church.
Definitely. I want to ask you, how do you feel the interest? I mean, do you feel there's attention in the media for what for this project or the gender justice work that is being done in the church?
Not yet. So far, we've been having positive feedback, positive comments. We even included government officials and faith leaders in the discussions. Sometimes some people say a few comments here and there, but so far it has been mostly positive, and people are supporting this. They are supporting gender equality. Now, in the end, I'm not coming here to compare the Lutheran Church to any other Christian denomination. I'm just saying that we need to fight for gender equality, and in doing this, we need to portray successful experiences. And the Lutheran Church has had a successful experience, and this should be shared with all the partners, and the local and international partners.
Do you think do you think, I mean, for the Lutheran Church being so courageous in making some steps, do you think this would affect the ecumenical relations with other churches? How are the other churches looking at your work? We
hope not. The Lutheran Church has been known for it being a leader in change. We have been advocating for change for so long, and now when we will have our female pastor, I'm sure other faith organizations will also accept it and welcome her, hopefully.
I mean, thank you. I think it's, even if there is resistance, people should be courageous to make the right steps or at least
yeah, you can't achieve change without having this opposition. When we have this opposition and people come and say, well, you can't have female pastors, and then we respond, no, yes, you can have a female pastor, then this is how we start the dialogue. This is where it doesn't happen overnight. It takes steps, baby steps, and this is what we're doing right now.
You've mentioned that Gaza adopts the Egyptian laws, family laws. Do you know what are the chances of really working with Gaza? The Lutheran Church does not have a church in Gaza, but other denominations have. Have you been in contact with the community there?
No, I'm not. We don't have any connection to Gaza, but our bishop has a connection, and they plan visits to go to Gaza, especially after the war that happened, the devastating war that happened. So as part of the ACT Alliance and the Palestine Forum, they planned a visit to go to Gaza and speak with the community over there and try to help them as much as they do. For me, my work now is only restricted to people from Jerusalem and the West Bank, even though in the future I hope to expand and I hope to reach more people in Palestine.
So when you're not working on this issue, on this project of gender justice, what does the Women Desk do at the Lutheran Church?
We do lots of activities. We are open to women and men of all ages. We don't discriminate against anyone. We welcome everyone's participation. We create activities. Some activities are fun, just to gather and be in community, and just to remember that we are under occupation. So sometimes we need those spaces where we can meet and have support groups with one another and be there for one another. We don't let the checkpoints or the separation walls separate us. We have 6 congregations in Palestine, 5 in Palestine and 1 in Jordan. We try to be one all the time. We try to have include everyone in our activities. So we do some fun activities. We do sometimes the Christmas markets, Christmas festivals. We do sessions for the children. We have a choir. We are doing the counseling workshops, the theological perspective workshops. We do some webinars about international human laws, just to explain them to the community. We also work with the women of the congregation. We build their capacity. We offer them courses, either if they have a business and they want to succeed in it, like digital marketing course, we offer to some students who have some ideas for a project. Or we also work with them to just build their capacities, learn how to use Word, how to use Microsoft Excel, how to use Microsoft PowerPoint, or just how to be a leader, the art of communication, how to portray yourself. We offer lots of courses. We believe that we need to educate men and women to these principles of equality. We love to include everyone in our activities, and we always welcome new friends and partners.
Do you find support from the wider Lutheran community, from the different parishes, men, clergy, or do you feel resistance from the work, for the work that you do?
From the Lutheran or the other Christian denominations?
The Lutheran.
Yes. So in the beginning, when the church was going through this reform process, yes, we encountered some difficulties. It wasn't easy. People said, why should we change? Why should we be the only church to change? How would that affect the relationship with other churches in the community? And there were lots of voices that tried to stop the change. But the Women Desk at the time worked really hard. They worked on doing workshops, explaining the Lutheran World Federation gender policy that is adopted in our church, explaining it from the Palestinian context and why is it important. We did lots of theological workshops, explaining the Bible, explaining why women are important, highlighting those important women from the Bible who have succeeded, and looking at us from our Palestinian context, bringing these arguments to our reality. And it was difficult. I will not lie and say it was an easy change process. No, it was difficult, but it is possible. It happened. We have reformed our family law, and now our family law is based on gender justice. We will have our first female pastor ordained very soon in the coming year. We also have a female in our church council, which is the highest council of the church, and this is the first female. She was recently elected. So we are seeing the changes. The women and men who have contradicted this change in the beginning are now their biggest support. They are sometimes so happy. They go and brag to other Christian denominations about how the Lutheran Church is such a leader of change, how we apply gender equality in our everyday lives.
What happens to, we've mentioned, so the Lutheran Church does not have any churches, to my understanding, inside Israel. But have you worked with the community inside Israel, within the Christian community?
I mean, we have in Jerusalem, we have a congregation in Jerusalem, but if you mean up north, no, we don't have any congregations over there, but we have our other Christian denomination friends who are there. So we go sometimes, we have collaborations with them. We conduct workshops. When we are talking about the Palestinian identity, it's very important to go there. Sometimes we plan trips to go. And as I just want to share with you a story, like recently in January, I planned a trip to go to up north to speak with other Christians from there. And some of the women and men who participated in this trip, it was their first time going to up north. It was their first time being on the ocean. Even they took off their shoes, even though it was cold, they took off their shoes and just soaked their feet in the ocean. It was it was a happy moment, and at the same time it was sad. It makes me want to make more of these trips for them, because it's not always about, okay, let's come and talk about the rice. Sometimes it's when you go and meet other people and share experiences with them and learn from them. Sometimes you also have some memories that for them they can't go, they can't cross because they need special permits. And so in order for us as a church to be able to help them and maybe take them there, and for them to share their experience and how it is like to live behind the separation wall, and hear from other Christians who are living in the north, this is also a great experience that they cherish.
We have a question about Lutheran pastors. Do the Lutheran pastors get appointed, selected? Who selects them, the bishops or the congregations?
So usually if someone studies theology and is eligible to be a pastor, and they have a certain degree to be a pastor, then they go to the church and they apply to be, and then the church council, which is the highest legislative authority in the church, is the one that decides.
You recently had elections for the church council.
We had elections recently for the church council. They were in February. And as I said, we had our first female pastor, female council member. And this was also another historic decision and accomplishment by the church to have a female in that position. It's usually only 5 men, and who are always responsible and take care of all the administrative decisions, and they have all the power. And now we have a first woman there on the council, and this is only the beginning. Now we have one. In the future we will have 2 or 3 out of 5, and this is what keeps us going. We need to celebrate those small accomplishments and keep hoping to get even more and more. With time we can change these symbols and stereotypes that say women cannot be leaders.
What happens when a Christian marries a Muslim? Which legal court do they go to?
Now that's also according to the couple themselves. Usually they go with the husband, and if a Christian female has married a Muslim man, then usually she converts to Islam. This is something that depends on the couple themselves. Like, I know lots of people who don't want to convert and they decided to go and have a civil marriage, for example. So it also depends on the people, but usually the norm is that the wife follows the husband, while on the other side, if a Christian man wants to marry a Muslim woman, usually the family won't agree unless he converts to Islam. So usually it's preferred that either the wife or the husband convert to Islam and not to convert to Christianity.
The changes in the laws were done even when the majority of the council or all the council was male, correct? When you have changed the church laws.
Our church laws.
Yes, the Lutheran.
Yes, so it was changed. The decision was made in 2015.
With the previous council. How often do you have elections?
Every 5 years we have elections.
Perfect. I want to ask you a question. What is the most frustrating part of your work?
The most frustrating part is when I speak with people and they say that we don't have a problem, or they don't see that there is a problem. And as no matter how much I try to explain the current problems and the challenges, they keep saying, no, this is the way it is. This is the way we're used to it. And we don't want to change the way we think. They're like the people who don't want to even discuss it or try to change their minds is not possible. But I am sure that after our conversation, I am sure that something in there remained and they will be thinking about it all night, or it affected them somehow.
And what gives you the most hope also?
It is give me the most hope is to see our first female pastor and see the hope in the young girls and boys who go to church, to see a new role model and a female leader in the church.
Thank you, Ranan. We acknowledge the work that you're doing is extremely difficult. And it's pioneering in for the wider Palestinian society across other Christian denominations and across other faith traditions. It's important for us to see that religion, and I mean it's important to see religion as a source of hope, not only as a source of problems. It has been a pleasure having you with us. I don't know if you have closing words, Ranan.
I would just like to say, as you said, religion should be part of the solution, not part of the problem. I will end my presentation by saying that. And I'm very grateful to you, Omar, to Sabil, and to Kumi Now Initiative for doing this webinar and raising the Palestinian voice to the wider community. Thank you all for listening to me today also. And I hope you visit our, subscribe to our newsletter and visit our social media and watch the documentary about how we reformed our family law to understand more about us as the Lutheran Church in Jordan and the Holy Land. Thank you all so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Keep up the good work, and we will hold you in our prayers, the Lutheran Church, and you personally, for the amazing work that is being done. There are problems, but there's people who are working on solving them. That is what we want to show. And that's the purpose of today. Thank you for being an example of change, Ranan.